What's up, man? How you doing?
Doing good, man. It's great to be talking to you. Are you all set to jump right in the interview?
Yes, sir.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for doing the show. It's a real honor to be talking to you. I appreciate it. Um,
Well,
um,
appreciate you. Thank you.
yeah, man. I found out about you a couple of years ago through Lettuce. I saw you with Lettuce performing at a live at Five in Albany a couple of years back, and I've been loving the solo albums. I'm a big fan of Spiritual. I can't wait to hear the new Lettuce album, and I can't wait to talk about it all, man. But how are you doing? What's going on right
Thanks,
now?
man.
How's your schedule been doing?
My schedule's okay. I'm fortunate to have something to do in a time when people don't have nothing to do.
Uh,
So,
was it a
I'm
pretty
good.
dead
I got
winter?
say it again.
Was the Did the winter and the last wave of COVID kind of slow things back down, and now you're back to full speed, or have you pretty much been back to
I'm not
capacity?
back to full speed. I'm not back to full speed by any means, but I'm definitely starting to speed up. But winter wasn't. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I still had to do, but
Yeah,
not much, and it was cool because it allowed me to just be in my studio and write, um, and work on music. And I've been working on a lot of new music lately. So, um, in a sense, I've been busier in the studio than I have live.
yeah,
You know, but things are starting to pick back up now, and you know, I'm looking forward to it
yeah.
because I
No,
need the money.
yeah, I'm hoping to catch another show sometime soon, and hopefully some more of your original stuff as well as the lettuce material.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm gonna start doing a lot of my original stuff this year. So like I'm working towards that. So be on the lookout.
yeah, definitely, definitely. I hope you hit upstate New York, particularly the capital region. And I know Spiritual's been out for a little while now, but I do have some questions I'd love to ask about the album. I mean, you have a amazing
Sure.
lineup, especially of your features, but I'm a big fan of Butcher Brown and the whole Butcher Brown crew. How did you end up linking up with them to do rhythm parts and record at Jellystone?
Man, I'm fortunate to be able to say that DJ Harrison is a very good friend of mine. But before we became friends, I don't know how it happened. I remember us being in Richmond, let us being in Richmond, and I DM'd them and like, yo, I was like, yo, I'm pulling up. I don't care where you guys are. You're gonna have to deal with me today. And I got to get up with them, and they sent me a pin, and I pulled up, and uh, something I'm very glad to happen because we all realize that we are all very kindred spirits, and we got a lot of stuff in the works coming out for you guys very, very soon.
Awesome to hear. I
Um,
love the chemistry you have with them. They were how I kind of found out about the whole
yeah, man,
Richmond, Virginia scene.
DJ is like my brother. He is my long lost brother. He's a brother I never knew I had, and he's just an amazing dude, and like he is the other side of my brain. He really is, and I'm really really fortunate to know that brother. But even everybody else though, I have the same vibe with everybody else in that band, and like we started talking and we got together, and it's you know we just realized, yo, we can make some records together, and something that works better than it does apart. But something I'm very fortunate happened at all.
Yeah. Um, Now, were you familiar with the Richmond music scene before that, or is there anyone else in the scene that you're particularly
I'm
connected
from
to?
Washington D.C., so yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, so can you say that based on that relationship, your next album is also going to heavily feature their work and DJ Harrison's work?
I don't know. I don't know what my next record's going to be right
Okay.
now. I mean, I have a lot of different ideas of what my next solo record's going to be, and it may be an instrumental record. It may just be my instrumental keyboard record that I've always wanted to make. I'm leaning towards that.
Okay. Okay.
Um, but God knows who will be on that record. You know, if Butcher may in fact be on that record, maybe they won't be. Who knows?
Okay. I'm sure it's going to be exciting, whoever it ends up being.
The record's not made yet. It's just an idea right now, but it's a very strong idea.
Okay. Now, when you were making Spiritual, was that? Do you ever like base your album concepts off of another album in particular? Like I've heard you talk about some albums in podcasts, but you're more so just like you don't have anything that kind of inspired the format of the album or the way you compile things.
Spiritual just happened. Spiritual happened. It just happened. I didn't go in there with any preconceived ideas. Just like, yo, let's just go and cut stuff for a few days. And Spiritual just happened. You know?
Yeah.
That's what I define an actual record, not something that you go in to knowing what's going to happen or trying to force an idea. It's just something, great records. It's something that can just happen.
Yeah.
And that's why Spiritual will kind of, for now, be my favorite record. Because it just happened. Everything, the stars were aligned perfectly. There were some things that happened throughout the recording that weren't, like I lost a friend of mine during that recording. I drank a lot during that recording. I mean, there was just a lot of things that happened that helped me to get where I needed to be to make that record. And now, you know, because like I said, I drank a lot in that record. Like I'm almost a year sober now.
Oh, congratulations!
So I look. Thank you. I look back on that, and I'm very proud of what happened because there were some things that I needed to let go of. That being in that environment and being with those people and making that music that we made, it helped me to let go.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean,
I was really going through shit. And like I said, through all of that, it just happened.
Yeah.
And that, yeah. So to answer your question, no, I did not have any preconceived notion or anything. I just let God have his way.
Yeah, I mean, on top of everything else in the pandemic, I mean, I'm sure, you know, it's beautiful to hear that the music can at least still be strong when other stuff is going on. And I hope your next album doesn't require that kind of stuff to come out of it, but it's beautiful to hear that that can come from experiences like that. And
oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I welcome any experience that I go through to make a record, whether it be good or bad, because whatever it is, I'm going to draw from it, and it's going to help me to make the record that God put me here to make.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's how I feel as long as I'm playing music.
Whatever time period that may be, you know, that's just how that's how I want to make my record.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I do have some things that are coming out soon that have a theme. For instance, like I'm working on a record that's full of all of my favorite movie songs, from my favorite soundtracks, because I love soundtracks and soundtracks of movies and movie music is something that I really, really enjoy. Number one, because you have to kind of be a movie buff to see how the music and the vision works together. Because the music has a huge part to do with the music. If you ever watch the movie with no music, you'd be pissed. But you know what I mean? But you can watch the music can sometimes even save the movie. The movie can be horrible, but the music is what makes the movie, you know? And because I'm such a TV buff and movie buff, I got a record coming out of just that. You know what I'm saying? So there are things, you know, that you can use as like, you know, a theme for a record. But as far as like for my solos, like for whatever it is, it's gonna be Nigel Hall. I just want to go into it with an open mind and find out on the other end.
Okay.
Because I know if I do that, I'll be much happier.
Yeah.
Much happier.
Now, as far as your love of movies and television goes, what are some like examples of songs that you would put on a record like that?
Well, I did a version of. Let's see. For instance, there's a song from a movie called Real Genius with Val Kilmer in it. Was in that movie. A song called Number One by Chaz Jankel, which actually would be the B-side to that movie, because the big hit that came from that movie, guess what? Everybody Wants to Rule the World.
Oh,
so
really? Okay.
So Number One is would be the B-side. It's not Tears for Fears, but the two big songs from that movie were Number One and Everybody Wants to Rule the World. So that's kind of an example of what's going on that record. And I did a version of Number One. Let me see what else. I did a lot of shit.
I haven't even seen that movie with Val Kilmer. I gotta check that out.
Oh, okay. Well, it's an old movie. How old are you?
I'm 25.
That's why. That movie is long before you were born. That movie is in the 80s. Like early 80s, 84.
Yeah.
You know.
I like classics. I like going back. I like finding the references and the history and all that.
Classic stuff.
Yeah.
I did a theme from a Richard Pryor movie. Let's see. I did 3 Days in the Condor by Dave Grusin. I did a couple complicated ones too. Wanted it to sound like movies, you know.
Yeah.
I did something from The Wiz. The Wiz is probably my favorite movie soundtrack ever made. So I did something from that. You know, I touched everything.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the whole movie side of things is a cool influence I didn't realize was so big for you. I mean, beyond the soundtrack and the music, do you have any other aspirations in the realm of music? I mean, do you want to do film scoring? Would you want to do acting? Like, how far does that go?
That's exactly what I want to do. I want to be doing film scoring. I absolutely love film scoring. I love the process of it. I love being in the studio all the time creating. I love putting music to film. It is one of my greatest pleasures. I really, really enjoy doing it. When I get the opportunity to do it, it's one of my favorite things. Being a producer, producing other people are things that I want to do. I really want to get into that. I've done some production with Raquel Rodriguez before. You know, that's definitely what I want to get into.
Yeah.
You know, I love performing, but I'm starting to get old. You know, you know, not saying that I don't want to perform, but like again, I'm getting old.
Yeah. Well, it's cool to be able to diversify your interests like that, because you don't have to spend every day on stage to get your like artistic. You scratch that itch by doing something that you are really interested in. I feel like.
Exactly.
If you can do that for yourself, why not? And I don't know. It's always like a fascinating thing to hear about, because it's a little off the beaten path from the regular like musician's diet of work. But like you said, it's like a movie wouldn't be the same without it. Same, movie or like video games or like a podcast or whatever. The music amplifies all of that, all those experiences so much.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Now, are you more into like instrumental music in movies, or are you also interested in like musicals or
both? I love them both.
What's like an example of a musical that you're really into?
A musical, The Wiz. My favorite musical.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about it as a musical, but yeah, I more so know the music. I haven't seen the movie. I know some of the music.
Porgy and Bess is another one.
Oh yeah.
Ain't Misbehaving. That's another one. Let's see. Let's see. I just got upstairs. there's so many.
Yeah, of course. I'm a big like West Side Story fan, or like Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah, West Side Story was my mother's favorite.
That movie, the old movie of that, is so good. Bad.
That's what, huh?
The old movie West Side Story is so good, like the color and like
they
the
made
choreography.
a whole movie about it too.
Now, another part of spiritual that I really want to talk to you about is, I mean, this is more of a springboard into a broader topic that I really want to talk to you about, is George Duke. The first time I sat and listened to spiritual all the way through, I heard your solo on Gotta Go to Work, and I was like, that lead reminds me of George Duke. And I'm listening through, and then I hear Caribou, and I'm like, man, this really reminds me of George Duke, Follow the Rainbow. And then I get down to the bottom, and there's the message from George Duke, and I was like, of course, I would have figured you were influenced by George Duke before, but like hearing those things.
I've never heard of him. I have no clue who he is. Who? George who?
Yeah, and I listened to you on Eric Krasno's podcast, and talking about George Duke. I love that stuff, man. I'm such a big George Duke fan. I first got into him through Frank Zappa. And I definitely want to talk about all of it a little bit. So, am I correct? Your first experience with George Duke was the record Feel? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Who's on that record? Is that Alfonso?
No, it's John Hurd. The band is John Hurd on bass, and Douglas Chancellor on drums. Frank Zappa's on the record as Abdul X. Floor Pure is on vocal for one song.
Oh, right, yeah.
And Erto is the percussionist of that record. And that record was recorded in late 73, released in 74, MPS Records. And it is my favorite record in the world. I don't even want to begin to talk about like how my instrumental record is going to sound. But I'm going for that.
I feel you, man.
That's where my head is. I'm going for that vibe. So when it finally comes out, don't expect me to do. I mean, I'm not trying to completely jack George Duke and Feel, but as far as vibe and as far as intent, I've never heard anything like it, and that's what I'm going for.
Yeah.
That record is what made me feel as if I had the strength and courage to go out in front of people and make music. Because on that record, there's so much intent. George Duke meant every thing that he said on that record, musically. With every note that he pressed on the Fender Rhodes, I felt every single one of them. And I have never heard a record that has done that to me since. Of all the records, I've heard a lot of records. I own a lot of records. There's no record that does that to me. Still, I'm 40. Yeah. I heard that record when I was 9. Okay? So that's a long time to be listening to that record. To know that, you know?
Yeah, I mean that's a powerful thing with a record, because I feel like for everyone there's just kind of this specific vibe that can resonate with you. And that's like, I know that record a bit, but I'm more familiar with records of his like Master of the Game is one of my favorite records of all time.
Yeah, that's the epic era.
Yeah. I mean, that record had a big influence on me, but I feel very similar about records like Herbie Hancock's Secrets, or Wayne Shorter's Native Dancer. Like, those are like records in the same way that are like did strike the perfect chord for me, you know. But
that is definitely the era. Sure.
Now, what's the story behind that that message from George at the end of the record? Like, where did you get that from? And
I got that from I used to do a radio show in Orono, Maine. I used to live in Maine, and I had a radio show on WMEB 91.9, and I was fortunate enough to interview George, and that's where that came from. I still had the audio from it, and a friend of mine told me, was like, "Yo, why don't you put that on the end of your record?"
Yeah.
Because I was going to put it on another record that I'm working on, which is a George Duke tribute EP. It's me doing all my favorite George Duke songs, getting it out of my system.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I can't wait to hear it. It's so cool to hear that you did radio. I mean, I kind of figured it might have been an interview you did, but I just really wasn't sure from the recording. But the fact that you got to interview him is...
It was an interview, and I was even playing tracks from Field behind our interview. I used to have the whole thing, and I really wish to God I could find it. But I found this little bit that I had cut up, that I had done, and I originally wanted to put out. And I just barely found that. So that's why I put it on a record, so that I don't ever have to go looking for it again.
Yeah.
You know, if it gets lost, if the file itself gets lost, it's out on a record. Like, you'll always be able to hear it on a record.
Yeah. Now,
was vinyl. Brilliant.
How did you like first get into doing radio and doing interviews? Like, was that far into it for you? Had you been doing it for a few years?
No, I didn't even go to the school. Like, they needed somebody to go to, they needed somebody to fill out the spot. And at the time, I was playing in a band, and I was always on the campus. And we were always in the building rehearsing that the radio station was. And then the people who used to come and see us play, they would always come up to me, and I would, I just, out of relationships that I built, I ended up in the radio thing, and they were like, "Bro, all you got to do is take this one little class. You don't have to be a member of the thing. It's as a volunteer DJ." And I had shows that I would go on, and I think I was on Saturday. I remember when I used to do late night. I used to woo. Them used to be the nights, because I would invite friends in, and they had to be quiet. So we'd be in there drinking and doing all kind of shit. And then, but then I had shows that were, like noon to 3. Those were cool,
Yeah.
I think I interviewed George on one of them noon to 3 shows, because I don't think he was up late that night or around that time. But yeah, I used to do radio. That was fun. I wish I could do it again.
Yeah, man.
I just don't have the time. I don't have the time. Like, I can't settle on a time, because if I get a gig, then I need to go and do something that pay me, because I need some money. I've been off for 2 years.
Yeah, I feel you, man. It's hard to juggle sometimes. I'm a full-time bass player, so this radio stuff is not always easy to get in there. But it's super cool to hear that you did it, because it is like its own little art form. I mean, do you feel like how did you feel about the interview process? Do you have any like particular tricks or things you like that you particularly felt like you had trouble with an interview?
I was just a nerd talking to my hero. That's all it was. I was a nerd talking to my hero, and I asked him all the questions that I ever wanted to ask George Duke my whole life. It's like, okay, here's your chance. Here he is.
Yeah.
To answer your question. You got an hour. Go. And I did. And it was the best interview ever. He knew I was a herb, and that's why I put the part on the record that I did, because he was like, despite the fact that you love me and love what I do and love what I play, obviously, you just even said this for yourself. I'm a complete, it's evident that I'm a George Duke ripoff. And I love it. There's nobody because to me, there's no one more honest in their musical playing than George Duke. Nobody. And you can even hear it yourself. And if it's going to be one person that I'm going to rip off, and learn something of myself from, because that's the key. He said, despite the fact that you love what I do and love what I play, somewhere in that, you have to find your own voice, your own sound. And you can do that. And he's so right. And when he told me that, it changed my life. You know why? Because I will never in my life, as much as I practice, be able to play the way that George Duke play. I can get there a little bit. I can fool, I can fake it until I make it. I know a couple of tricks that I have up my sleeve that I could do that. But in reality, I will never be able to do what George Duke could do. But here's the beautiful part about that. George Duke will never be able to do what I can do, because we are two completely different entities, different expressions of the Creator, of God. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. He made it that. And that's why it's so beautiful. If I could do what George Duke could do, what the f*** is the point?
Yeah.
So how am I inspired by that? Oh, I can do that too. You know what I'm saying? What's the point? So find the thing that you love that I do and take that around the next stars, what he told me. That was some dope shit, man. I'll never forget how I felt when he told me that. I was definitely like a child who, I was a kid. Well, see, I was about to use another reference that you're probably too young for. But, I was definitely the kid who got to shake Jordan's hand. And imagine how that might have felt. Yeah. That was me. When he told me that, like, I never felt so proud of him in my life. Yeah, man. You know? It's I've never had a moment that I can think of. The one moment somebody asked me name like your top 5 moments of like your life. And I've played everywhere I wanted to play. I've met all the people I wanted to meet, you know? And there's only one moment I can think of aside from the birth of my children, and that was the day that I talked to George Duke, and he told me that I could be as dope as he is if I wanted to be. Yeah. That was the greatest ever, and there's nothing doper in life than that.
Yeah, that's like one of the best affirmations you can get.
There's Superman telling you, hey, you can fly too, you know?
Yeah, man. I feel very similarly. Paul Jackson. Paul Jackson is my favorite bassist of all time, and I wish I could have gotten to speak to him before he died, but just the way he plays, like the truth behind what he's doing and how it resonates with me, it makes me like I would feel the same way.
You can tell he's somebody that is not playing with you. I love Paul Jackson. He's the greatest.
Yeah, man.
That's why I love him. It's because of the intent in which he plays. You don't play. He is out there playing.
Yeah. I mean, I've had.
Yeah, he's playing. He is not here to play though.
Yeah, he would have been my dream interview if I had gotten to do that. I would have been so starstruck. I mean, in I guess specifically for the bass playing world, I have a few other dream sort of interview people, but he's like up there. I mean, I've gotten to interview like Mike Clark, who Thrust is like my second favorite Herbie album, and it's like. Right, like those rhythm sections are some of my like favorite groupings of musicians. But anyways, I want to pull it back to some different George Duke stuff that I want to talk about. Like, are you very familiar with his work with Zappa?
Yes.
Now, like, where did you find out about Zappa, and like what drew you into him, and what about George's work with them do you appreciate?
The first music I grew up listening to was Fusion, Return to Forever. It was the first band I ever really started listening to. I found out that George Duke played with Frank Zappa shortly after finding Steel, which was about, I don't know, maybe Zappa was in my teens, I guess. And that's where it started. And I was always really into progressive music that went left when everything else went right. So, and then I found out that George played, and I found everything that George played on. And the thing I love about it is, in that period, there's an innocence of George. You know, George. It's not the master of the game, George. It's not. You know, it's a George trying to find some different.
Yeah.
Trying to find something to play. You know, something that he could be himself. And that's why I really enjoy that period. And that period also comes from George in the Cannonball Adderley era.
Yeah.
Because before he played with Zappa, who did he play with? Cannonball Adderley.
Yep, Phoenix. I love that record.
Yeah, Phoenix, Music Y'all, Black Messiah. Hey, hold on a second. Hey, I'm on an interview. Hold on. Sorry about that. Okay, so yeah, Zappa. So yeah, I like progressive music, and he played with him, and I found out, like, of course, got all I could get with him on it. Roxy and Elsewhere, obviously, and the bootleg. Yeah, we got all that.
Yeah, Roxy and Elsewhere might be my favorite with George Duke. Actually, you know what? My favorite's probably, have you ever seen that live show? There's like different iterations of it. The one I had, my older brother had a DVD when I was in high school of the Dub Room special. And they have like that whole
claymation,
yeah, all the claymation, and like Napoleon Murphy Brock, Chester Thompson, Ruth Underwood, and man, that was one of my favorite records. Listen to those George Duke and Napoleon Murphy Brock solos on there. That's like how I learned to improvise, playing like Cosmic Debris with those videos. Is there like a particular, I guess like maybe from Roxy and Elsewhere or somewhere else, like a particular favorite like George Duke solo from that era, or?
There's a solo on YouTube where he's playing a funk version of the Inca Road solo from Richmond, Virginia in like 74, 73, something like that. I don't know. I'm not sure what it is. I haven't heard it in a while.
Okay.
But that's the one if I'm ever down a rabbit hole, that's the one I'm usually looking for.
Okay. I love that original, the studio version of Inca Roads, the solo he does on there is so like blazing and cool. I love that original version. And
I love it too, but there's variety. Which
his live performances I feel like were his best work. I mean, he's got like a really cool sound studio wise, but I feel like his bands are just meant for live performances. The bootlegs are some of the best stuff.
Definitely.
Do you have a particular favorite song that George sings for him?
I'm not really. I mean, St. Alfonso.
Oh yeah.
You know, St. Alfonso's Pancake Breakfast at the end. I like hearing George in any capacity I can hear him. Yeah. Whether he's singing, whether he's not singing, he's farting, it doesn't matter. I'm down.
Yeah, man.
Especially if I haven't heard it.
What part was I gonna say? I love. I don't know if you've listened to the live albums. You Can't Do That on Stage Anymore, volumes 1 through 6.
Yep.
They got that version of A Token of My Extreme, where I think it's just called Tush Tush Tush. Have you heard that?
Yeah.
I love what George is doing on that. It's a little vampy thing, but it's such a cool little. I love it so much more than the regular A Token of My Extreme. Like, But yeah, man, I love George Duke. You can tell I love Zappa. I'm a big nerd about that
stuff. I can tell you do. Great.
But I have a lot of musicians on the show, and I also have some comedians on the show, and I love to ask comedians what really, what they're really into musically, but I love to ask the musicians what they're really into when it comes to the art of comedy and stand-up comedy. And maybe how in television and movies, what you're into. But like, what's your perception of like the art of comedy, where as you stand now as an artist?
Oh, dude, it's real simple. Dave Chappelle said it best. He said the art of comedy is the reason comedy is so dope is because it's timing. It's just like musicians.
Yeah.
Comedy is timing, and musicians think they're funny. We all think we're funny.
Yeah.
Some of us are, some of us aren't. That's it for me.
Yeah.
I love comedy. comedy and music are it's the same thing. I can tell a joke through what I'm playing. That's the beautiful thing about music is it's an unspoken language. That's what comedy is. If you listen enough, you'll learn. You can learn, and even though you're laughing, there's a lesson to be taught. A lot of people don't just go out here and they're not trying to make you laugh, but they just telling the truth.
Yeah.
And the truth is funny sometimes. Most of the time it is if it's right.
Yeah.
You know, even if it's about you. You know?
Yeah.
People got to learn to be humble. You know?
I love
Humility.
feeling personally attacked by a comedian. I love feeling called out for something
right.
when they like catch you. It's like that you do that. Like they
right.
find the
you
truth.
You do that to yourself. You don't do that. You do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But yeah, I feel like
absolutely.
music is a language in its own way, and I feel like comedy, similar to music, is built off that concept, but it's also, it's like rhythmic. I've heard a lot of comedians talk about like the flow of like between the audience and the speaker and the delivery of the lines, and I feel like there's so many parallels that I love to talk about between the two. Now,
yeah, that definitely.
For a lot of people I've talked to about Frank Zappa, I feel like they think his sense of humor is like a little much, which I kind of get, but he's still one of my favorite composers ever, so I kind of just love his weird sense of humor. How do you feel like that influenced George Duke? Because, I mean, would you say that musically, like even in instrumental music, you could say George Duke has like a sense of humor and like a way of expressing that in his music?
Absolutely does. He absolutely does. That's my point. Is that he's the most expressive person. He can tell you all about who he is through his playing. And when I met him, he was the exact same person who I thought he would be. You know, that's as close as I can get to that answer.
Yeah.
That's as I can give you.
Is there anyone else musically who like the sense of humor with the music is like something that you're really into, or is that something you don't always gravitate towards?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm really just into things that feel good.
Yeah.
If it feels good, the intent is there. You know, again, there's no hiding in music.
Yeah.
You know, it's there. It's there all the time. You know.
Yeah.
And if you want it, if you want it bad enough, whatever the message is, then you'll get it.
Mm.
If it's funny, I love funny, stupid shit. Especially when that intent is there too. You know, because I mean, it takes a lot to be that honest.
Yeah.
And do some stupid shit. You know.
Yeah.
Especially when you know it's stupid. You know.
That's part of the fun. I feel that.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's just something I love to talk about. I've done some stand-up comedy for the past year, my own time, and like you said, they're so similar. I love just talking about any kind of art with any kind of real, dedicated artist. I feel like there's, with all the parallels between arts, there's so much of an opinion to be had about like what you can learn from another art. It's like Victor Wooten talking about, he learns a lot about bass by trying to play it like a piano or trying to play it like a drum set or something. I feel like it's the same way between arts. Do you feel like, is there a particular art form that you would gravitate towards if music wasn't like the choice? Like if you weren't doing music, is there another art form you'd want to jump right into?
Fashion, probably.
Oh, okay. I did not know that you were into fashion. Like, is there a particular, is it like just the design, any particular kinds of clothes?
Shoes, probably.
Okay.
Sneakers.
Very cool, very cool. Well, I do have to get wrapping up in a sec with the interview. I want to have some time to play some of Spiritual on the show and the new single you have out with Lettuce. Is there anything you want to say about the new Lettuce album coming up? Anything you want to say about live shows coming up?
I just can't wait to get back out and play for people. You know.
Yeah.
Like, it's been a long time coming. we need to get back out there, and we need everyone else's support. And you know, as long as somebody wants me to make some music for them, I'll be around to do it. And the Lettuce albums is killing. We got a lot of new stuff there. Got some new collabs that we've been looking forward to. And yeah, it's gonna be tight. And the live show's gonna be back. I'm adding some new keyboards. It's gonna be great.
Awesome. Well, I'm hoping to catch a show soon. But I really appreciate you doing the show.
Man.
What was that?
Thank you very much. I appreciate you. I said I appreciate you having me, man. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, man, it's a real honor. I love spiritual. It's I'm so glad I got put onto the solo stuff, and you're always welcome back on the show, and I hope to see you around soon. But thank you again, Nigel.
Absolutely. Thank you again, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. Have a good one.